Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Litany of Catholic Martyrs for August 3rd. Um, so today, as I always do, I always say pray for the families of those who were martyred on Easter Sunday in Sri Lanka. That whole incident where they bombed all those churches and all those people were martyred, that really struck a sympathetic chord with me. So, um, so I started this litany of Catholic martyrs, and also I pray for the families of those who were martyred. And I say that I offer morning lauds, morning prayers, and evening vespers, evening prayers. And I also say it during the end to always pray for those families who had loved ones who were martyred. So I read an article. I found an article on Church Militant. I frequent that every day, and I listen to their headlines. I listen to Michael Voris and his Vortex. I used to listen to the download, but they've stopped that for a while because they're doing some renovations. They're gearing up to take on everybody, and it's nice to be part of that, or to be able to listen to that. And they make everybody a part of that. Well, they wrote an article, and so what I'm going to do this morning is I'm going to read the whole article. It's not that long, but it puts a punctuation, actually puts a fine point on the point that we all are trying to make about the blood of the martyrs. As Father John Hardin says, the blood of the martyrs are the seed of the church, and many great Bishop Sheen and many great theologians and doctors of the church have said the exact same thing. And my biggest complaint has always been that the bishops, the cardinals, and even the priests now, they don't bring up the martyrs. They don't bring them up for a specific reason. They don't think that people want to hear about that. They don't want to hear about death and the bloodshed, and how we sacrifice for the church and the church grows. People don't want to hear about death. They want to hear about their iPhones. They want to hear about partying. They want to hear about their movies. They want to hear about everything but the truth. And the truth of the matter is this, is that we are not put here to be self-serving. We are put here to serve God and to serve his church, just like his son did. That's what we're here for. We're here to serve God and to get to heaven. We're here to serve Jesus Christ. We've always been here, from Adam and Eve to now. Our only goal is to serve God, to serve Jesus. And Adam and Eve served Jesus because Jesus was around during creation, the triune God. He's always been in existence. No matter what people try and tell you when they say that there's the New Testament and the Old Testament. Jesus was around when Joshua slaughtered everybody in Canaan. Jesus was around during the flood. Jesus was around when Pharaoh was buried under all that. Jesus was part of all that. So he's not a different God. Jesus has always said, I am here not to change the prophets, but to fulfill the prophecy. Not to change what the prophets have said, but to fulfill the prophecy. That's why he's here. So anyway, here's this article. You'll find it interesting, and it gives us a great deal of hope. And in this article, there is a true miracle. So from Colombo, Sri Lanka, this is from Church Militant, a Sri Lankan cardinal, in demanding answers on the deadly bombing of Christian churches on Easter Sunday. The April 21st attacks targeted 2 Catholic churches, 1 Protestant church, and 3 luxury hotels. The bombings killed about 250 people and injured another 500. The suicide bombers were linked to the jihadist terror group National Tawhid Jamaat. Cardinal Malcolm Rajinth, head of the Colombo Archdiocese in Sri Lanka, said in a press conference on Wednesday that he will not meet with any of the candidates in the country's upcoming presidential election until political leaders do more to investigate the Easter attacks and bring justice for those who are affected. He told the press, this quote, "There is no need for presidential candidates to come see me during the upcoming presidential election." Close quotes, open quotes again. We do not want the government or politicians to be using this incident to try and score points, but to unite and take appropriate action, the Cardinal opined. That is what we expect. God bless his Cardinal. Cardinal Rajinth accused both the ruling administration and the opposition of being complicit in the deadly attacks. He's a brave man. Many of those involved in the terrorist plot have been brought to justice, he argued, and political leaders have failed to investigate the bombings and inform the public. Many of those involved in the terrorist plot have not been brought to justice, he argued, and political leaders have failed to investigate the bombings and inform the public. Quote, "We don't want elections," he declared. "We want the truth." If we only had these kind of cardinals in the Western Church, in the western part of this. Reportedly, Cardinal Rajinth went on to say that the elections are being used to distract the public's attention from the deadly bombings that were carried out by Islamic extremists just a few months ago. It's called the squirrel syndrome. Squirrel! Or, do not look at the man behind the curtain, from The Wizard of Oz. He called on political leaders to put aside their differences, investigate the bombings diligently, and be transparent to the public. Cardinal Rajinth's comments Wednesday came 101 days after the Easter Sunday bombings. After the attacks, news came out that Sri Lankan government officials had received tips about the terrorist plot, but failed to act on the information. Cardinal Rajinth commented at the time, "These kind of officials should be immediately sacked and removed from their positions." It is reported that Cardinal Rajinth returned to this topic during Wednesday's presser. The Cardinal announced during Easter week that he was temporarily shutting down public masses in his archdiocese for fear of further attacks. As a result, on Divine Mercy Sunday, which is 1 week after the attacks, many of Sri Lanka's Catholics were relegated to watching Mass on television, broadcast from the Cardinal's private chapel. So at this time, you would think that these terrorists have won. They got what they wanted. The churches are empty because everybody's too afraid to go. But we're 100 days later. And so Sri Lanka is a majority Buddhist country with notable Christian, Hindu, and Muslim minorities. A 2012 census data indicated that there were 1.2 million Catholics in the country, approximately 6% of the total population. Earlier this month, this is the part you need to listen to. Earlier this month, a Sri Lankan priest observed that the bombings have led to increased interest in Catholicism among Sri Lankans. Father Prasad Hashan, a priest of the Colombo Diocese, told the Aid to the Church in Need, quote, "Many Catholics in Sri Lanka have told me that after the terror attacks, they have become stronger and more devout than before. For those who were directly affected, the wounds remain today. But altogether, it was a blessing for the Catholics in our country, because the whole country was baptized overnight. There is baptism with water, and there is baptism with blood. Suddenly our whole country became aware of the presence of the Catholics and the special nature of their faith. In the past, only 4,000 people watched the Cardinal's video messages. Now there are hundreds of thousands who watch. They want to hear what he thinks. We saw the meaning of Easter, but it began with the torn bodies, with the blood of the martyrs." Unquote. Secular media, they don't even this wasn't even brought up. This is the miracle of prayer. This is the miracle of the martyrs. This is the miracle of the church and the growth of the church. This is the miracle of God's creation and how things work. It's just the way it is. This is how things work. It was designed by Almighty God in conjunction with the breath of the Word, His Son, and explained by the Holy Spirit, the Paraclete. And they don't talk about this, the true miracle. They don't talk about the miracle of the Eucharist every day. And they don't talk about these miracles, but this is a miracle. Finally, during the interview with ACN, Father Hashan spoke of the pastoral work in the aftermath of the bombing, saying he is one of 5 priests who are working with the terror victims. We are particularly active in the Gombo, Father Hashan continues, where 115 people were murdered and more than 280 were injured in a single parish. Everywhere we see black flags of mourning. The people are wounded physically, mentally, and spiritually. The priest told ACN at another point, we are working a great deal with children who are scared to come to church or Sunday school again, and also with mothers to strengthen their faith. God bless this man and all the other ones who are working. The Easter Sunday bombings drew worldwide media attention. Some criticized the mainstream media for apparently downplaying the fact that the attackers were Islamic terrorists, murderers. Another criticism involved the media's use of the term Easter worshippers to designate the Christians who were, I did say that, I remember that. Easter worshippers were Catholics, Christians, followers of the Lord. Anyway, I wanted to read that to you so you can be aware of this wonderful miracle. But it began with the torn bodies, with the blood of the martyrs. That's wonderful. So today, we honor these men, women, and children for August 3rd. So, at Jerusalem, the finding of the body of most blessed Stephen, remember Stephen, the first martyr, and of the saints, Gamaliel, Nicodemus, and Abibo, through a divine revelation made to the priest Lucian in the time of Emperor Honorius. At Constantinople, the birthday of Saint Hermelus the martyr. In the East Indies, near Persia, the martyrdom of holy monks and other Christians who were put to death after suffering various torments during the persecution of the Church of God by King Abaner. At Naples, in Campania, Saint Aspren, bishop, who was cured of a sickness by the apostle Saint Peter, and after being baptized was made bishop of Naples, I guess. At Autun, the demise of Saint Euphronius, bishop and confessor. At Anagni, Saint Peter, bishop, who rested in the Lord after gaining great renown for monastical observance and for pastoral vigilance. At Philippi, in Macedonia, Saint Lydia, a dealer in purple. I guess the purple dye was a big deal back then. I do remember hearing about this. Who was the first to believe in the gospel when the apostle St. Paul preached in that city. And finally, at Beroea, in Syria, the holy women Marana and Sira. These are the men, women, and children we honor today. I have a link to that article if you want to go and read it. There's also a video that you may want to listen to. And there are other very, very good things on Church Militant. So take a look at that. Thank you for spending some time with me today. God bless you. Take care.